Snow fell all night in Northvale. By morning, everything was covered. Roads, houses, and fields were white. The air was cold. The sky was low and gray. There was no storm. Ethan Moore walked near Blackridge Forest. His boots left light marks beside the road. His dog, Archer, walked ahead on a leash, smelling the snow. Ethan used this path most mornings before school. He did not think much about it. He noticed the footprints because they were different. One straight line of footprints crossed from the road into the open field near the forest. They were deep and even. They were made by shoes. There were no other tracks around them. No car marks, no extra steps. Ethan stopped. The footprints were not his. They were larger and heavier. The edges were sharp, which meant they were made after the snow stopped falling. He looked at the road. No footprints went away in either direction. Archer pulled the leash slightly, but Ethan did not move. He kept looking at the prints. Ethan tried to explain it. Someone may have crossed the field early. Someone may have been picked up by a car. People do strange things in small towns. Still, he moved closer. The footprints went straight across the field toward the trees. They did not turn, they did not slow down. The steps were steady. The person was not running. Ethan followed beside the trail. He did not step on it. Archer walked close to him now. His tail was low. Halfway across the field, Ethan noticed something else. The snow around the footprints was untouched. There were no marks from slipping, no signs of dragging. The snow looked smooth. Then the footprints stopped. They did not fade, they did not turn away. They ended suddenly. Ethan stood at the last footprint and looked around. There were no tracks going back, no broken snow, no holes. The trees were still far away. There was no explanation. He felt pressure in his chest. "This is nothing," he said. He checked his watch. He was getting late. He needed to go home and get ready for school. He turned to leave. That was when he saw Archer was not moving. The dog stood behind him. His legs were stiff. His head was raised. He was staring at the empty space just past the last footprint, not at the trees, not at the road, at that exact spot. "Come on," Ethan said, pulling the leash lightly. Archer did not move. His body pulled back. A low sound came from his throat. It was not a growl. Ethan looked again. There was nothing there, only snow and light. The cold felt stronger. Ethan stepped forward and placed his boot next to the last footprint. The ground felt solid. Archer's ears went flat. "That's enough," Ethan said. He pulled the leash harder. After a moment, Archer moved forward. The dog kept looking at the empty spot as they passed it. Once past it, Archer did not look back. Ethan did. From a distance, the footprints still looked the same, a straight line across the field that ended suddenly. They walked back to the road. Ethan stayed beside the trail. At the road, he looked again for signs of where the person came from. There were none. At home, Ethan took off his boots and coat. He fed Archer. The dog ate but kept lifting his head and listening toward the door. Ethan told himself he was overthinking. Cold weather can affect the mind. Still, when he locked the door, he stopped for a moment. It felt like something had crossed a line that morning, but left no clear proof. By the time he reached his car, the feeling became weaker, but the image of the footprints ending in the snow stayed in his mind long after the field was gone. By midday, Northvale had returned to its usual rhythm. Snowplows cleared the main roads, shops opened late, people talked about the cold and nothing else. Ethan taught his classes, graded papers during lunch, and avoided checking his phone more than necessary. The footprints stayed in his thoughts anyway. He heard about Lucas Grant after school. Two teachers were speaking near the parking lot, their voices low but urgent. Ethan caught the name first, then the detail that followed. Lucas Grant hadn't come home the night before. Lucas was a mechanic who ran the small garage near the highway. He fixed school buses, delivery vans, and the occasional police cruiser. Most people in town knew him, even if only by sight. He left the shop around 7, one teacher said. His wife thought he'd stopped by a friend's place. He never did, the other replied. They say he was walking, cars still at the garage. Ethan paused beside his car. Walking where? He asked. They exchanged a glance. Near the forest road, one of them said, the one that cuts past Blackridge. Ethan's hand tightened around his keys. He drove home slowly, the route passing closer to the field than he liked. The snow still looked smooth from a distance, no signs of disturbance, no markers. If he hadn't walked there that morning, he would have thought nothing of it. At home, Archer greeted him at the door, tail moving in short motions. Ethan knelt, ran a hand along the dog's back, then stood again. The local news confirmed it an hour later. Lucas Grant, 39, reported missing. Last known location, Forest Road near Blackridge. Anyone with information was asked to contact the police. Ethan sat at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug he hadn't touched. The words from the broadcast echoed with details he hadn't shared. The footprints, the field, the place where they stopped. He told himself that coincidence was common. People walked that road often. Snow erased evidence quickly. What he'd seen might have meant nothing at all. Still, by early evening, he was putting on his coat again. Lucas Grant's house stood on the edge of town, lights on in every room. A car was parked in the driveway, engine cold. Several other vehicles lined the street, some belonging to neighbors, others unfamiliar. Ethan hesitated before knocking. Claire Grant opened the door. She looked tired in a way that had little to do with sleep. Her eyes focused on him carefully, as if measuring whether he should be there. Ethan Moore, he said. I teach at the middle school. I heard about Lucas. She nodded once and stepped aside. People have been coming by all day. The living room smelled of coffee that had been reheated too many times. A folded blanket rested on the couch. A phone charger lay plugged into an outlet, its cable empty. They sat across from each other, a small table between them. He was supposed to be home by 8. He doesn't stay out late, not without calling. Ethan listened, unsure when or how to speak. The police say his phone stopped moving around 7:40. They found the last signal. She reached across the table and slid the phone toward him. The screen was dark, but the map application was still open. A single marker sat near the center of an open field, just off Forest Road. Ethan recognized it immediately. That's near Blackridge, he said. Yes, she replied. They said it's an open area, no buildings, no reason for him to be there. Ethan's thoughts raced. The time, the location, the direction of the footprints. Did Lucas walk home often? He asked. Sometimes, she said, if the weather wasn't bad. He liked the road, said it helped him think. The police arrived shortly after. 2 officers Ethan recognized, joined by a third from the county. They asked him standard questions. When they mentioned the field, Ethan felt his chance narrowing. I was there this morning, he said, choosing his words carefully, walking my dog. The officers looked at him more closely now. I saw footprints leading from the road into the field. One of the officers shifted his weight. Another wrote something down but didn't look up. Did you see where they went? The county officer asked. They stopped, in the middle. There was a pause. We searched the area, the officer said. Found nothing. No tracks? Ethan asked. No usable evidence, the officer replied. They moved on from the topic quickly, asking about times and routes instead. Ethan noticed how the word footprints was not repeated. The search lasted until nightfall. Flashlights cut across the field, volunteers formed lines, dogs were brought in and taken away again. Snow continued to fall lightly, filling any marks that might have existed. Nothing was found. Later, as the officers prepared to leave, Claire stood near the doorway. Her voice was steady when she spoke, but her hands were not. She looked at Ethan. If someone walked there, she asked, where did they go? The question hung between them, plain and unanswered. Ethan searched for words that would not sound empty. He found none. "I don't know," he said. She nodded slowly, as if that was what she expected. Ethan left shortly after. The air outside felt heavier than before. He walked to his car and stood there for a moment, keys in hand, replaying the morning again and again. He should have spoken earlier. He should have called someone. He should not have assumed the explanation would reveal itself. As he drove home, the road past Blackridge came into view once more. Snow reflected the headlights evenly, hiding everything beneath it. The field looked unchanged, but Ethan no longer believed that meant nothing had happened there. Snow returned to Northvale before nightfall, heavier than before, filling the streets and pressing against windows. By evening, the earlier search tracks near Blackridge were gone. The field had been reset, flattened into a single, pale surface again. Ethan watched it from his car, engine off, lights dark. He had told himself he would not come back. He had said the police would handle it, that his presence would change nothing. Still, he parked along Forest Road just after 10 and stepped out into the cold. Archer stayed home this time. Ethan crossed the roadside carefully, boots crunching against fresh snow. The field stretched ahead, open and undisturbed, bordered by trees that formed a rough boundary rather than a wall. The air carried no wind, only weight. At first, he saw nothing unusual. Then his flashlight beam caught a line in the snow, another set of footprints. They were newer than the ones he had seen before, edges still sharp, depth consistent. These prints came from the opposite direction, entering the field from the tree line rather than the road. Ethan's breath shortened. The spacing told him the same thing as before, walking pace, steady, no sign of urgency. Whoever made them had moved with intention. He followed the trail. Each step carried him closer to the center of the field, to the same location marked on Lucas Grant's phone. The snow around the prints remained smooth, untouched by anything else. The footprints ended in the same place, not nearby, not a few steps short, the exact spot. Ethan stopped, heart pressing harder now, not with panic, but with recognition. This was no longer coincidence. Two separate paths, two separate times, both terminating in the same empty space. He turned in a slow circle. Nothing had changed. No marks, no compression beyond the final step, no trace of removal or collapse. "This isn't random," he said aloud. The words felt necessary, even without an audience. He backed away from the spot and returned to his car, leaving the new trail untouched. The drive home felt longer than usual, each mile marked by a growing sense that he had arrived late to something that had been happening without notice. Sleep did not come easily. By morning, Ethan had made a decision. The town library opened late, but the records room was accessible with staff permission. Ethan asked for local archives, property reports, and old news files related to Blackridge Forest and the surrounding land. He did not explain why. It took hours. Most entries were ordinary: land disputes, hunting permits, seasonal closures. Then he found a small article dated 12 years earlier. A man named Robert Hale, age 46, reported missing after failing to return from a walk along Forest Road. Search efforts had lasted 4 days. No remains were found. Another article followed, older still. A woman named Elaine Porter, missing 21 years ago, last seen walking near the same stretch of road after leaving a late shift at a nearby diner. No witnesses, no evidence. The wording was familiar, even across decades. No signs of struggle, no explanation. Ethan sat back, fingers pressed together. 3 cases, different years, different lives, same place. He copied the articles and left the library without checking anything else out. That night, he returned to the field again. Snow had begun falling earlier than forecast, thicker now, reducing visibility. Ethan stepped forward anyway, guided by memory rather than sight. His flashlight cut a narrow path across the ground. The earlier footprints were already fading, edges softening as new snow settled. As he neared the center of the field, a sound reached him. It was not a voice. It came from beneath the surface, low and shifting, like pressure moving through packed layers. Not constant, not rhythmic. It passed beneath his feet, then away, then back again. Ethan froze. The sound did not break the snow. Nothing rose, nothing fell. It was motion without form. His phone vibrated once. Then the screen went blank. No signal. He lifted it, turning in place, but the display remained unchanged. The field, moments ago a place he could navigate, felt larger now, less defined. The sound returned, closer this time. Ethan became aware of something else then. Not sight or sound, but attention. The sense that distance no longer mattered, that whatever moved beneath the snow did not need to be seen to be present. He took a step back. The snow beneath his boot held firm. No collapse, no break, yet the feeling did not lessen. His mind ran through the names he had read earlier. Hale, Porter, Grant. People who walked alone. People who chose the same road. People who did not vanish in panic or violence, but in sequence. It waits, he thought. It does not chase. The realization settled with clarity rather than fear. This was not an event, it was a process, something bound to this place, to timing, to selection, something that left no marks because it had no reason to. Ethan backed away from the center of the field, every step measured. The sound shifted beneath the surface, tracking without following. When he reached the edge of the field, the pressure eased. The sense of attention withdrew like a door closing without sound. Ethan did not stop walking until he reached his car. Inside, with the doors locked and engine running, he sat for several minutes without moving. His hands shook only slightly. The questions formed fully now, no longer abstract. Why these people? Why this location? Why nothing left behind? And beneath all of them, the larger understanding he could not ignore. Whatever caused the disappearances did not act by chance. It observed, it waited, and it would choose again. The warning came shortly after noon. Heavy snowfall expected overnight, visibility near zero, roads possibly closed until morning. Ethan listened from his car, engine idling outside the school parking lot. He already knew what the announcement meant. Whatever marks remained near Black Ridge would not last another night. By morning, the field would be sealed again, reset beyond reach. He drove home and found Claire Grant waiting on his porch. She stood with her arms crossed against the colt, her coat buttoned incorrectly. Her eyes moved to him the moment he stepped out of the car. "You went back there," she said. It was not a question. Ethan did not deny it. "Yes. And you found something." Not answers, but enough to know this won't stop. She looked past him, toward the road that led to the forest. "Then take me there." Ethan hesitated. The storm warning echoed in his head. The sound beneath the snow, the sense of pressure that had followed him back to the car. "You shouldn't," he said. "I don't care," Clay replied. "If he walked there, I need to see it." The sky darkened as they drove. Clouds pressed low, thick and uneven. Snow had already begun falling in spattered flakes, light but persistent. They parked along Forest Road and stepped out together. The wind picked up, carrying cold across the open land. The field stretched ahead, pale and wide. "This is where it happened?" Claire asked. "This is where it ends," Ethan said. They walked carefully, their steps leaving fresh marks behind them. Claire moved slowly, scanning the ground, the distance, the tree line. "I keep thinking," she said, "that if I look hard enough, something will explain it." Ethan did not respond. He felt the ground differently now, the way the cold pressed upward through the soles of his boots. They reached the center of the field. Snow fell harder, filling the air, softening edges. The road behind them faded into a blur. Claire stopped walking. "This is it," she said. "Yes." She stood still, breathing shallowly, her gaze fixed on the open space ahead. Ethan watched her carefully. Then he noticed the footprints. A new set was forming in the snow behind her. They were close, too close. Ethan turned fully. The prints appeared one by one, deepening as if someone were walking toward them. The spacing was deliberate, the direction clear, but no one stood there. Claire was not moving. "Claire," Ethan said, "don't turn." Her shoulders tensed. "Why?" "Because you're not the one making those." The snow beneath them shifted slightly, not a collapse but a change in pressure, like air moving through a sealed space. Ethan stepped closer and felt it too. The ground responded with a dull give, then steadied again. "It's under us," Claire said. Ethan reached for her hand. The moment his fingers closed around hers, the snow behind them changed. The footprints stopped forming. Then they vanished, not fading, not filling in, gone. The surface smoothed over, restored as if nothing had pressed into it at all. The ground beneath them dropped a fraction, then held. Claire gasped, her grip tightened around Ethan's hand. The snow thickened, reducing visibility to a few yards. The field no longer had clear edges. Everything beyond their immediate space dissolved into falling white. Ethan felt the same pressure he had sensed before, stronger now, closer. Not movement, but presence. He pulled Claire toward him, anchoring their weight together. "Don't let go," he said. The ground shifted again, this time more distinctly. A hollow sound traveled beneath them, deeper than before, passing from one side to the other. Claire closed her eyes. "It's choosing," she said. Ethan did not argue. A distant sound cut through the snowfall. Sirens. Faint, but growing louder. Ethan looked toward the road, though he could barely see it now. The sound steadied, purposeful, approaching from multiple directions. The pressure beneath them receded slightly. The ground firmed. Snow fell harder, erasing the pads they had taken only minutes earlier. The surface of the field smoothed out, layer by layer, until it no longer showed any sign that anyone had stood there at all. What had felt unstable moments before now appeared solid, ordinary, unchanged. Rescue lights emerged through the snowfall, flashes of red and white breaking through the gray. The sound of sirens grew clearer as officers reached them, hands firm on their arms, guiding them away from the open ground. Questions followed, where they had been standing, what they had seen, how long they had been there. Ethan answered as clearly as he could. Claire did not speak. Her gaze remained fixed on the field, as if it were still active, still unfinished. When they reached the road, Ethan turned once more. The field lay behind them, wide and empty. Snow continued to fall, filling everything evenly. There were no footprints leading away, no impressions where they had stood, no sign of the marks that had appeared and vanished. It was as though the field had never been entered at all. Ethan felt a familiar pressure then, not beneath his feet, but in his awareness. The sense that distance mattered, that observation itself altered what remained behind. Whatever had been present did not need to pursue or reveal itself. It only needed time and the certainty that it would not be confronted directly. Claire finally looked away from the field as an officer placed a blanket around her shoulders. Her face showed exhaustion rather than relief. The answers she had hoped for had come close enough to be felt, then withdrawn without explanation. As they were driven back toward town, snow closed in behind them, hiding the road, the trees, the field. Northvale returned to its normal shape, its normal boundaries. By morning, people would walk past Black Ridge again without noticing anything unusual. Ethan understood then that the absence was the point. No evidence meant no conclusion. No conclusion meant no warning. The field did not announce itself. It did not change the landscape. It waited to be crossed, to be trusted, to be overlooked. And as long as it remained unchanged, it would remain available. The snow ensured that. By dawn, there would be nothing left to question, only the knowledge that something had almost been understood, and that almost was all it ever allowed.
By midday, Northvale was back to normal. Snowplows cleared the main roads, shops opened late, people talked about the cold. Nothing else.
The footprints may be gone, but it's watching. Like, share, and subscribe to stay curious.